Hello, my name is Gary Schotten, and I'm here again as a part of Inspiring Better Business, IBB Talks. Today we're going to talk about the subject of responsibility, and more so about taking the correct responsibility for the actions of your company, yourself, your team members, and how that works when you're in the business world. Now, most people tend to, in the natural, like to take responsibility when things are going really, really well. Hey, I'm in charge because our team won the event. I'm in charge because I'm in charge and I helped make this team successful. I mean, that's a very common, we could gravitate to that if we're not careful, and to some degree that's true, but I like to hear a successful sports figure, when asked about that, they said, I'm not the one that made this happen. My team made it possible for me to score this many points, or my team has done this and that for the success of the team. And I really register in on that. It bothers me when someone starts to soak up, I'm the one, I'm responsible, I made it happen. And that's true in the business world. If you're a one-person operation, then you take all the responsibility, good and bad. But as soon as you start adding people, then you've got to recognize that it is a team and things are going to be reflective of how the team did, not how one person did. Now, what I suggest, number one, is don't have a pattern of saying they did it, he did it, she did it. Someone else is responsible, and it's very subtle. But if you're late for a job, on-time delivery is very important to us. Well, we don't want to say, well, it was the quality department that caused us to be late. I was on time, but quality is holding us up. No, we as a team didn't deliver the part on time. Or if there's something wrong with a dimension, a part is not meeting the drawing, the specifications, and we say, well, it was Joe again. Joe, he had a bad weekend. Let's feel sorry for Joe. He had a family situation that caused him to be a little distraught on Monday, and because of that, Joe made a bad part. No, don't do that. Our customers don't want to hear that. It's not a pattern. We can't develop this pattern of pointing the finger at somebody else. That's a very poor habit to get into, and it will be spotted by the quality persons at a beginning stage. Someone might let that get by and kind of fall for that, but in the long run, that is not the answer. No, if something happened, I'm responsible. Even they know that I cannot make a single part or measure a single part to the quality levels that this company produces. Yet, repeatedly in the front of my customer, I will say without hesitation, I am responsible. Why could I say that? I'm the one at the top of the pyramid. I am the one that it makes put into practice to be sure things are done correctly in a process, a pattern of a process that's going to produce the end results. I'm a systems person, so that is part that comes with the territory. The buck stops with me. I am it. Now, when something does happen, our customer wants to hear how we're going to correct that issue. We have a corrective action report. In other words, when we have a part that is become to our customer and they unintentionally got out of our shop, it's going to happen that one of the dimensions or a couple of dimensions are not to the satisfaction of our customer, or maybe the part just didn't appear good enough. Maybe the customer didn't like the way it looked. And so they expect us to do what's official form that says corrective action. And we then have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday discussion on every part that happens internally, because we're going to make parts, we're going to have mistakes, everybody does. And we try to correct those actions so that we minimize, not eliminate, but we minimize that. And our customer wants to know that we're not just repeatedly accepting this below par standard. They want to know whether you're doing it, whether you're selling shoes, you've got a plate of food that comes out to the table and it was cold when you wanted it hot, whether you're doing a hairstyle and you make a mistake and cut the hair too short, or you just name anything. that the tomatoes were too ripe, or just every single thing. There's going to be something that's going to be substandard. And in that process, you've got to be conscious that the customer wants to hear, what did I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? You know, there's a lot of lawsuits. This is on big scale things that people, I think, intentionally cause a lawsuit. They're not striving for money. Sometimes they'll say, I'm going to sue this organization or this company, and I'm going to give all the proceeds to a nonprofit, because what they're doing is, we're bringing attention to this. My child got hurt or killed because of a defect in a product. They're bringing attention so that other children are not killed or hurt, or the problem doesn't persist, come up again. We had a situation where we have a very famous ice cream factory here in town, and I remember there was some poisonous, very minor things that got out of their shop. It was a form of a bacteria, and yes, it wasn't right. But if you go through all the shops with all kinds of food, I believe this ice cream company had a pretty clean shop. But they didn't make any excuses, none. They had no excuse. They said, we will correct this, to the tune of $100 million it cost them and more, because they emptied several months of supply of ice cream and dumped it into landfills. They made sure nobody got that, and they took responsibility. Wow, even though that cost them, they had to reinvest, they had to sell part of their company to a private investor to bring this back. It's a big company that's been around for many, many years, and they did the right thing. No excuses, and they took on that responsibility. Now, there is this general attitude, whether it's a big issue or not, we can do better. So it's not uncommon for me to say, I apologize for this situation happening, and I know that we can do better. And then we proceed to go back and make the improvements to do better. The buck does stop with me. It is the reality of this. And it's just the way we have to approach that, and an attitude. It's an approach that says, we're going to resolve this. We're going to come to a resolution. Now, the things that we're going to talk about, you know, is that you don't want to say, I apologize that the other person misunderstood me. That's not an apology. That's implying that the other person was ignorant and should have understood me, like they're the problem. Or I apologize because I didn't mean to make them mad. That's not an apology. You didn't apologize. You didn't take responsibility. You made it sound like the other person was overly sensitive, should have overlooked that. And so these are things that that you've got to look deep enough. When I hear an apology on air or on the TV, I'm listening very closely, and I'm determining whether that person is passing the buck. He's not taking responsibility for his actions. And until a person takes responsibilities for their actions, say, you know, I am an alcoholic. Now, I'm not, but you know, if a person says, I am an alcoholic, and I take full responsibility for that, and I'm going to make the corrective actions by joining an organization that's going to help me through this, and I'm going to be a better person because of it, but I am fully responsible, and I'm also responsible to make the correction. Boy, there's somebody on the right path. Now, in business, you're going to do better with your customers when you take responsibility. And even if you're the top person and you had nothing to do with what happened, you are the one that's responsible to let it happen. You didn't have your systems in place. You didn't have a check and balance to keep it from happening. You didn't have your quality inspections up to par. Somehow, you could have done something differently. You'll have somebody that's not consistently at work on time. You're the ones responsible. Oh, well, they were late and this caused a problem, or they didn't show up for work. You're the one that had to deal with that and either train them and get them up to par or replace them. You're still responsible. So taking responsibility is a big part of being a successful business owner. I hope this is helpful. We believe that you're being inspired to do better business. Thank you.